That was a good week of football. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and we're going to go over the Week 16 waiver wire, doing this Sunday night after the New York Giants-Washington game. Of course, as always, really looking for guys who are under 50% owned on ESPN. That's the guideline, and we are not going to be doing a recap video for the games this week. Schedule's a little bit weird with the Christmas week, and pretty much going forward for the rest of the season. I don't know. I'm going to wing it for now as far as the schedule goes. As far as the waiver wire options go this week, there is really just one gem out there. Here's your hint down here as to who that will end up being and what position that'll be. But first, there are a couple of quarterbacks who are worthy of being on the radar at the very least, and that's going to be Jared Goff and Brock Purdy. You know, we're living week by week right now, so I usually do my waiver wires more so looking for into the future, season-long type things, but we're kind of past that. So I will do my rankings early this week. They will be out on Tuesday for the quarterbacks, maybe the tight ends as well, or if you have a preference, feel free to let me know in this video. I could always do one position or the other, but get that out on Tuesday, so that comes out prior to the waiver wire, because if you're, I feel like streaming quarterbacks is the biggest thing right now. Then you'll have an idea of where they rank. Let's move on to the running backs, and unfortunately, Jonathan Taylor suffered an injury that very well may take him out for at least a week, and so that's going to bring up Zach Moss. Got the most work. Looks like he started before Deion Jackson, so it looks like he's going to be the guy, and he got a fair amount of work, and so look for that again against a pretty decent matchup going against the Chargers. They haven't been too great on the ground. They have the New York Giants after that, so a lot of opportunity also looking forward. So Zach Moss is your waiver wire darling this week, and honestly, the second running back here may be the second best waiver wire option. That's going to be Tyler Algier, going up against Baltimore though, so that's not great. Followed by them, we have Chuba Hubbard, who had 6 touches compared to Gus Edwards, who had 7 carries. I have these two very close in my mind as far as which one's more valuable than the other. Offensively, you could almost say Chuba's in a better situation anyways currently, and the 7 touches is more valuable than 7 carries. I believe that was 4 carries and 3 receptions. Gus Edwards, probably no targets, no receptions, 7 carries. We'll take that extra value here for half PPR. In a non-PPR situation, it's still very close. I lean towards Gus Edwards a little bit, just because I think he's a more talented back. That's about it. These running backs down here are mostly just guys who you probably don't want to start, but in case an injury does happen throughout the week, always potential, but next week, then for the championship game, you would have yourself a guy who is very much be in a position where you may be able to start them, especially from Alexander Madison up, almost guaranteed starts probably no matter what the matchup. Maybe Zamir White would be a little harder to trust because he's a less known entity, but that's about it. And then Kyren Williams hasn't played yet for me to really take him off of the list this week, but he's been sitting on timeout for a week and will probably get kicked off. We'll see what happens against Green Bay on Monday night. And then the Houston running backs down here go up against Tennessee next week. Definitely don't want to be trusting them against that. There are pretty much 3 of them right now, Royce Newman being the most traditional back, and then we got 2 receiving backs, and it's kind of a mess, but the Jacksonville matchup after that's not too terrible. Still, would rather not have to rely on any of them. I would rather probably just take a shot on an injury with a guy than hold on to one of these guys for a week. Now, let's move on to the wide receiver waiver wire options, and just really have one big list right now for the most part. I do need to add these 3 in here in some form or another, maybe be able to kick one of them off. So I will come back after the Monday night game, and in the comments, I will place them somewhere on this list. Now, I think these top 2 guys, DJ Shark and Nico Collins, are probably in a tier on their own. Nico however, has been injured for the last 2 weeks. So, big, I guess, risk factor. If you're taking him on a hope and a prayer. And obviously, he plays for Houston. But going up against Tennessee, really good matchup for wide receivers. And then you got Jacksonville after that. Still a pretty decent, one of the better matchups. So there's a lot of upside as far as the matchups go. I would consider this roughly to be my second group of the receivers in here if I was making some cutoffs. But Darius Slayton, Corey Davis, Paris Campbell, Elijah Moore, Jahan Dotson all up here. Jahan Dotson just had a really good game. Did have 6 targets, so that was good to see. But he's going up against San Francisco next week. Cleveland's also not really a great matchup for receivers after that. So especially next week, I would just rather take a hope and a prayer on some of these guys in some better matchups. I know like the Los Angeles Chargers aren't a great matchup for Paris Campbell as far as receivers go. It's a matchup I enjoy to try and get some fruit from, I guess, just because the Chargers are a team that can put up a lot of points and put the other team into passing situations. Other than that, some good matchups for Darius Slayton. Corey Davis is injured. That's why we have this little star here. So that's also another guy who's a bit of a risk taking as a waiver wire option. But hopefully you don't really need to dip into the waiver wire this week for wide receivers. Hopefully you have something on your bench that you can work with. There should be some better options out there. So this is what the list looks like. I'll just let you look at that. And here you go. Right there for you to see. Right there for you to see. And like I said, I'll fit these 3 on here. Just as far as Kadarius Toney, don't mind the Seattle matchup, but based on this previous week, it would be really, really hard to go out there and trust him. And then Jameson Williams does have a couple of nice matchups, but he too did not really get utilized much this week. We'll see what the underlying stats look like. Maybe he did get on the field more. That would be helpful, but obviously really, really tough to trust as well currently. And would have to have one huge game here in order to be trustful in a good matchup against Chicago. And that brings us to the tight end waiver wires. And I have Juwan Johnson at the top of the list. He's come through one way or another a lot of weeks for a while now this season. They utilize that position on that team. Tough to pass up. Going up against Cleveland, Philadelphia. Pretty decent upside overall in the matchups there. Philadelphia, I think, is pretty darn good against the tight end overall, though. But once again, that's one of those high-scoring teams usually that you might be able to benefit from down the stretch of the game at the very least. And then Austin Hooper, Houston, I know, is a very good matchup, so love him this week. And the only reason Chig isn't higher on this list comes down to it. Treylon Burks will probably be coming back this week, one would assume. And that's been most likely been a large part of the reason that Chig has had the success that he has had as of late. He'll get downgraded in the rankings as Treylon Burks comes back once that's official. And so don't really want to rely upon that. But until that's known for sure, I still have to hold them up a little bit. But some of these guys, at least these 2, would probably be ranked ahead of Chig by the end of next week. So Taysom Hill going up against Cleveland, Philadelphia, same thing as Juwan Johnson. Obviously, totally different type of play. Really big upside. We saw that come true this week. We've seen that happen twice this year. So there is risk to that. But at the tight end position, not the worst thing to take risk on a guy like Taysom Hill. Hunter Henry has a couple of nice matchups there. I like that. And then Noah Fant, just had a touchdown. Not a whole lot of targets or anything, but Kansas City's another upside type matchup, but then not really looking too good after that. Daniel Bellinger didn't do much this game. Trey McBride did have a decent game, but they're going to be on their QB3 in Trace McSorley. So I don't know how much I like that or not. I have to look at how many of those targets came from Trace this last weekend. That might, if 4 of his 5 targets came from Trace, maybe I like him a little bit more. But, hopefully you're not having to dig down to this portion. I do think these guys will be pretty well ranked next week. Same with Taysom Hill, I'm sure, especially for the experts. And so that is it for the waiver wires. And I will be putting out my positional videos, like I said, starting on Tuesday evening, afternoon, probably. I gotta wait for some stats to come in, and then I will probably spread them out a little bit more this week, so that way I can do some more of my analysis, especially for like the running back and wide receiver videos. Those might be coming out later. I would like to do as much analysis as I can to get those videos out, but I also have to get them out at a decent time, so they'll have some time to grow, to be seen by people, because it takes a little while for my videos to get the snowball rolling on them and make it out to the masses. So thank you guys all very much. I appreciate all of the subs and everything. We're growing, and that's awesome. So take care, stay cool, everybody. Peace out.